really Batman. But then the ending is he gets broken out by this woman named Jane Doe. Originally, I thought maybe it was Harley, but it's not. I guess it's not Harley. It's somebody
Well,
else.
she's got powers too because said she's been in his head for a week and it's a busy
Yeah.
place, so she's got some sort of psychic power.
This was an issue that really didn't further the story. It was more just who is this character.
Yeah, well, I think that was a big question, though. I think that's one of the big questions of Doomsday Clock is where did this guy come from? And they spin a whole issue. Like, I'm hoping they don't abruptly cut Johns off with this. I hope he's able to tell this the way he wants to.
Yeah.
Because
It's
Watchmen's
a big story.
It's a big story, and Watchmen itself is a slow burn to read the graphic novel of that.
Yeah.
And it's very Alan Moore is very descriptive, and it's very long. And with this, I hope Johns is able to do it justice. I hope they don't say, "Oh, we got to bump this up, we got to hurry this up and get these out and screw up the story." I hope he's given the time to do it because so far it's a slow burn, like Watchmen, like an Alan Moore book would be.
Yeah.
But it's Jeff Johns writing it, and it's got Justice League characters in it. And I think given the proper amount of time and letting Johns do his thing is going to make this a classic. But if they rush it and they fuck it up, it's going to be a laughingstock.
And even then, the only Justice League you see is issue 1. We got one or two panels of Superman, and then you get Batman. We haven't seen anybody else really. It's been all we had
most of that lead up most of the lead up to this was the Button. So we got a lot of the Justice League, Flash and Batman and all that.
Yeah.
In the Button issues, and now in the actual meat of the Doomsday Clock story, we're 4 issues in now. It's been mostly Watchmen stuff. It's been mostly aftermath of the Watchmen, where what Veight's plan is, where the new Rorschach's coming from, what Dr. Manhattan's up to. There's been a lot of concern with the Watchmen universe and Veidt trying to get Dr. Manhattan to come back to their universe and save them. And the question is still up in the air: is Superman Dr. Manhattan? I think so. I don't know if that's. I don't know if they actually confirmed that. Because they said Dr. Manhattan. He said, "Well, John can change form, and he took the form of someone else here." And so I'm thinking that it's Superman. It could just be a red herring that they're leading us along, but I'm thinking that it will be connected to this rebirth Superman who seemingly came from nowhere after the death of the New 52 Superman, and this old school, here he's going to get the red underwear back pretty soon. Old school pre-crisis Superman just comes out of fucking nowhere. I'm thinking that's Dr. Manhattan in a different form. Maybe it will get to the point where they extract them and separate them, like they did the Hulk and Bruce Banner, where they actually pull Dr. Manhattan out of Superman. And but I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out. But so far, spending a lot of time with the Watchmen side of things. We haven't yet really got into how this is affecting the regular DC universe.
Yeah. So interesting issue. Next up on the plate, Detective Comics. Did you read Detective?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so this one, still sticking with what's going to happen in the future. The guy Ulysses, who was working for the...
Now, is this the anarchy of a different... This is Ulysses of a different timeline that's come from the future to find Tim Drake.
Well, this is the guy that was working for Kate, for Batwoman's father in that whole thing. And he's shown videos of the future to Tim Drake and says, "I can help you because I've showed you this because we can help each other." And basically, this whole issue is Tim it revolves around that, and Tim and Batman talking about how Tim's like, "I need your help."
Yeah, well, it's basically the thing that Batwoman did to Clayface is not the thing that sent Tim Drake over the edge like they thought a couple issues ago. They thought it was, even Tim Drake thought, this must be the thing that Kate does that makes me want to kill her and stop her. But we find out in this issue, it's that in the future, she brings the colony to Gotham to kill Batman.
And she kills Batman.
And she kills Batman. So that is that. And then Tim Drake shows up and says, "What have you done?" And so that we find out that is the thing that makes Tim Drake put on the cowl and want to kill Kate. So that we've been misled for a couple issues on that. Even Tim Drake thought that killing of Clayface was the final step. But we find out, no, she actually comes back and kills Bruce in the future. In the not too distant future, from what it looks like, too.
I like how Detective is basically, Dick Grayson has his own book. Jason Todd has his book with the Outlaws, and Damian has his book with the Teen Titans.
And the Super Sons, too.
And the Super Sons. This Detective really is Tim Drake's book.
Yeah, anymore it is. It for a while it was kind of
Batwoman book.
And Orphan.
Yeah.
Centered around Orphan a lot. Then it was kind of centered around Stephanie Brown a little bit, and now probably the last 4 or 5 issues, it's been a Tim Drake centric book.
Yeah. So it's another issue in the long saga of what sends Tim Drake over the edge.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that I'm really liking about Detective, and I was wondering for a while, am I getting bored with this or not? But then I started seeing it from a different way. You're clearly seeing the Bat family is completely divided now.
Yeah.
The Bat family that included guys like Azrael and Batwing and Batwoman and Clayface and Orphan and Spoiler. There's clearly a separation between them and the boys.
Yeah.
The boys are family. And you can see that in that meeting they had about what's going on. Batgirl's not really family even. She's kind of gone against Bruce.
Yeah.
But the boys are family. He raised the boys.
It's in a way.
And the boys stay with Bruce no matter what. And the other team knows it. The other team are even amongst themselves like, the boys will never leave Bruce. They'll always back Bruce. They will not, no matter what he does, they will back him till he dies.
Even someone like Jason, who was kind of like, he kind of did go against Bruce a little bit with what to do about Kate, but he's still kind of like, you do what you want to do.
Well, he said, when I'm in Gotham, I don't use the guns out of respect.
Yeah.
For you and the cave and what you stand for.
The thing with Batgirl is, I'll say it again, I loved Gail Simone's run on Batgirl because it was a dark Batgirl. But since then, they've made Batgirl like this, I'm smarter than you are person. Like, I'm so smart, I'm smarter than all of you, I know what's going to go on, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And it kind of sounds like it pisses Bruce off because I brought you into this family and you're treating, you think you're better than all of us. And even with the boys, they're kind of like, the boys won't leave Bruce. I mean, they've had their arguments before. Tim
Drake stood right there and said she's wrong, and he even told Bruce later in private. He said, "You worried about what Barbara said? Barbara is wrong."
Yeah.
He said, "You're right, Bruce. You're right about all of it, and Barbara is wrong. It's not about this or that. It's and he kind of laid it out for him.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about it, because there's like it feels like a real rift in a family in these last few issues, and I love that the sides are being drawn up. I love that the boys back Bruce no matter what. It's Dick, Damian, Jason, and Tim Drake will ride or die with Bruce. Even if he's wrong, even if he's dead wrong, they'll do it. And this other half of the team are kind of outsiders looking in, going, why are they so loyal to this man? He's insane, and his plan is insane, and it's never going to work. And so it's cool to watch the rift happen going on in DC and Detective.
It's cool because these people, like you said, they're like, his plan is crazy, it's never going to work. But the boys know he knows what he's doing, and it will work.
Yeah, well, he's the Batman. They've lived in the mansion. They've lived at Wayne Manor. They trained in the Batcave with the man. They've known him their whole lives growing up, and they know he's 10 steps ahead of even the Justice League. So you always follow Bruce. You don't go against Bruce.
The final one I read was Hellblazer, continuing the storyline of this priest who used to be part of this gang, bringing his brother's souls back and inhabiting the bodies of the police chief that young John Constantine shagged in the bathroom at the bar.
Yeah.
And Constantine trying to figure out how to help her. He summons a demon from hell, Blythe, to kind of get some information. Where the last issue, he actually got information from Nurgle. They brought Nurgle back. So he's kind of playing this whole game with it. It's not much to talk about with it. It's just another issue. And this whole thing...
It's hard to review Constantine. Constantine seems to have kind of long-running arcs, and a lot of them are just, this is flowing this way, and it's like, until you get a conclusion to something, it's kind of hard to review it.
It's really hard to review it, and especially with this whole one being the fact that his issues started stemming from the fact that he can't get an erection.
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
I've been off and on with. I've read a bunch of the Hellblazer, but I haven't read this latest one. So
I enjoy it, but it's really a hard book to review. It really is a hard book to review. What else did you get done this week?
My last one that I read was The Flash, which was the War of the Flashes this week. Which I would say this is definitely my number 2 pick of the week. I did like Detective. Meadow had my problems with. I like Doomsday Clock, but I would say my second favorite was The Flash this week. Because this is last week we know last month Barry Allen lost his powers to Grodd. Grodd took the Speed Force. Then Barry Allen recaptured the Lightning Rod and put the Lightning Rod back and regained his Speed Force, but ended up opening up the Speed Force for Grodd to take possession mentally of all the other Flashes. So he had possession of Godspeed, both Wally West's. Mina, I think she's the Negative Flash, I think. And there's the one other girl, I can never remember her name. But they were against Barry Allen, and they are chasing him down, and he's trying to. They're being mind controlled by Grodd, but Grodd is basically showing them Barry Allen's mind and what he thinks of them from the worst possible thoughts that Barry Allen's ever had about them. So they're seeing Barry Allen see them as young, punk, inexperienced, and that he wants all the Speed Force for himself. And he's just kind of fueling that and fueling their rage against Barry Allen. Well, he manages to break Wally West out of it by reminding him of Iris, the original Wally West.
Right.
He reminds him of Iris, and so Wally West breaks free of Grodd for a minute and tells him, look, there's one way you can defeat Grodd, and he can't really tell him how to do. I don't know. It's kind of left up in the air whether he tells him or not. And then it kind of cuts away, and then you see that they're all the Flash are chasing Barry Allen down, and finally comes down to Grodd shows up himself, and Grodd is basically pissed off, and you see there's a moment of sympathy for Grodd in this that I thought was really interesting. I think Joshua Williamson's writing this, but there's a really interesting moment of sympathy for Grodd. Because Grodd's got this incurable disease, and he's dying, and he needs the Speed Force to heal himself. Mm-hmm. And so he tells Barry Allen, Barry Allen says, you can read my mind all you want, but the reason you can't defeat me is because the thing I use to defeat you is in my heart, and you can't read that. And Grodd is like, you think you know me, you don't know anything about trying to save your people and being rejected time and time again. And then it shows flashbacks of him in the jungle, like being like persecuted for speaking up about stuff, and like the other apes throwing rocks at him and kind of banishing him and like turning their backs on him. And you see Grodd just alone. He's like a gorilla alone. The other gorillas won't have anything to do with him. And you kind of see into Grodd's past, and there is this kind of sad moment. You see Grodd, like the reason he is so angry is that his people just turn their backs on him his whole life. And so Barry Allen actually kind of sees that and says, well, and he starts to manipulate the lightning rod thing. And he's like, well, what are you doing? And he said, I'm going to do what I should have done the whole time, which is try to save you with all of my power. And he hits him with a blast of the Speed Force. And he cures Grodd of the disease that he had. But he only gave him like 1 split second of Speed Force to kill the disease in his body, and then pulled all of the Speed Force away from him and his mental power. So Barry Allen basically stripped Grodd back down to all of his extra Speed Force power. He basically stripped Grodd back down to basic Grodd. He's still got the the somewhat capable mental